Children of the Universe by Professor Dr. Ante Simonić. Chapter 10, Anthropology. Based on theoretical data, Ernest Haeckel, 1834 to 1919, managed to construct the figure of the creature which is characterized as a species between humans and apes. He named it Pithecanthropus erectus and proved the existence of such a being by excavations at Java, 1891 to 1892. Chapter 10.1, Systematization of Hominids. There are only three virtues: sense of reality, objectivity, courage, and the sense of responsibility. A. Schnitzler. Unfortunately, the reconstruction of the phylogenies of humans is only partially satisfactory. There are multiple reasons for that. From inadequate paleontological discoveries to the omnipresent potential logical fallacy in the interpretation of humans. Human origin, evolution, geographical distribution, growth and development of human population, and their structure in space and time. Science claims that humans came to being quietly through a polygenetic selection as all other living beings during a merciless evolution which enriches life like a tide. Does the key lie in the monophyletic beginning, which does not exclude the existence of the first human couple, Mono and Nessus? Should precedence be given to polyphyletic emergence from several points of homonization and even the entire evolution front? Did the homonization process gradually overtake a group of beings and later spread to the entire species? In 1925 in South Africa, the remains of the ape Australopithecus, also called southern ape, which already had some human characteristics, were discovered. That early humans, as high as the present-day pygmies, evolved at the beginning of the Pleistocene, 2 million years ago. A human is associated to the somewhat more sophisticated Homo transvalensis that was omnivorous and knew how to make simple stone tools. These data are constantly being checked because new dilemmas keep presenting themselves. Although unclear, the phylogenes of humans indicate that approximately 1.7 million years ago, the third early man, Paranthropus robustus, developed. He was vegetarian and used tools to a much lesser extent. Australopithecus, Homo transvalensis, and Paranthropus robustus lived simultaneously for thousands of years, approximately 900,000 to 600,000 years before us. Then they became extinct. Then the first humans came to be. They preserved the knowledge on smashing stones and using stone objects, and they definitely stopped being exclusively vegetarian, which was a trait of the ancient primates. Through consumption of meat, the food which has a significantly larger amount of proteins than plants, the need for food and the amount of time spent on eating are reduced by 2/3. Consequently, our ancient ancestors had significantly more time for other activities. What also developed was the mechanism of internal delay, that is, the ability to satisfy a need at a specific and socially appropriate moment. All of the above facilitated the enrichment of social relationships and the possibility of communication. Bone remains of the most ancient human, Homo erectus, are approximately 500,000 years old. The evolutionary progress was enormous, so Homo erectus was the first being with the anthropological characteristic of humans. He knew how to make tools, and his brain volume was up to 1,300 mil. Homo erectus became extinct around 400,000 years ago. Anthropological research indicates that there are different human ancestors. That is to say, that different species of pre-humans, early men and ancient people actually fought, destroyed each other, and probably crossbred. The use of numerous systematizations makes the situation more difficult. Hominids are divided into various groups which do not represent different developmental levels of the same unique line. Rather, they developed independently from different pre-hominids divisions contained within genus Homo. For instance, Homo erectus, or Arcanthropinae, used to live 700,000 to 500,000 years ago, and the group indicates Pithecanthropus erectus, Sinanthropus pekinensis, and Heidelberg human. They used primitive tools and fire and lived in caves, and they hunted and gathered plant fruits. Palanithropinae are a small group of hominids who lived during the last ice age and indicated pre-Neanderthals and Neanderthals. Their appearance became similar to ours, and they practiced ritual burials of the dead, group hunting, etc. None of the named human ancestors up to the Neanderthal could speak due to an anatomic insufficiency of the articulation system. The Neanderthal developed a pronouncedly primitive phonetic language of a very narrow application, and only Homo Cro-Magnonensis, who lived 35,000 to 20,000 years ago, had a relatively developed phonetic speech. Structureless complexes of sounds gradually formed words, and the voice became one of the fundamental human modes of expression. However, in comparison to the present-day humans, even the Cro-Magnon was intellectually weak and was thus named Homo stupidus or Homo brutus. The Neanderthals probably died out during the last ice age because they were overpowered by Neanthropina, among which the strongest species were Homo sapiens. It developed during the middle of the last ice age, 100,000 years ago, probably first in Africa due to a favorable climate and other living conditions. Cognitive abilities of those ancient people were significantly more developed than of other named human ancestors, which is manifested in hunting scenes with quality depictions of form and the sense for color on the cave walls in Las Cocas and the creation of simple sculptures. Homo sapiens surpassed all other hominids on the planet Earth, and all present-day humans belong to the species Homo sapiens. Contemporary anthropologists, for instance, J. Knox, deny the existence of human races and avoid the use of that term, claiming that there is only one sapiens species, Homo sapiens. That way, the theory that there are 3, 4, or, according to some, even 30 or more human races is rejected. Significant anthropological differences between apes and humans include the following. Incisors and eye teeth of humans are smaller than those of apes. Their pelvis is wider, and the lateral backbone profile of humans has an S shape, while the backbone of apes is shaped like a bowl. The front limbs of humans reach up to the knees, while in apes they are significantly longer, etc. Their diet also differs. Since humans are omnivorous, the ontogenesis of humans is significantly slower than that of apes, so children are to be nurtured for a longer period of time than ape babies. Sexual dimorphism, the difference between male and female gender, is less pronounced in humans. Humans are sometimes said to be beings with many biological deficiencies. That is, since we are non-specialized, Many animals exceed us in power, speed, and the ability to fly, the speed of swimming. They have better sight, hearing, smell, and similar. However, humans are superior to specialized species in numerous activities for which specialized species are not adjusted to, so the lack of specialization in humans resulted in a harmonized and often superior combination of average characteristics. One of the fundamental characteristics of Homo sapiens is its great mobility. Thanks to their mobility, humans managed to spread widely, to migrate, and to mutually crossbreed. That is why we have never had closed human communities and highly specialized population groups. The human evolution has become an intricate network of closely linked crossbreeding and mutual influences. The crossbreeding enabled the preservation and development of polymorphism of the humankind, while cultural independence contributed to the reduction of diversity. A further important difference between humans and apes is reflected in brain development. Human brain has the volume of 1,400 ml on average, with the potential maximum of 2,400 ml, while the volume of an ape's brain cannot exceed 750 ml. Many researchers agree that the huge enlargement of our ancestors' brain over 3 million years is a real miracle. Moreover, cranial characteristics of the modern human appeared only 35,000 years ago, and the greatest part of the cultural evolution was realized during the last 5,000 years, which is only 1% of the entire history of hominids. Chapt10 considers altruism the most sublime of all human values and the fundamental characteristic on which the future of civilization depends. Thus, he highlights the inappropriateness of the dominance of Homo praedatorus, ambitious and unscrupulous creature which uses advantages of biological evolution to the maximum. Altruism appeared in the late phase of biological evolution. If we exclude instinctive behavior, feelings towards other beings and compassion are not present even in higher animal species. Among people, first signs of altruism date from 60,000 years ago. Apparently, during the hominization, that is to say, with the transition of the instinctive into the rational world, a new type of evolution occurred, cultural evolution. It represents the most perfect adaptation of living beings on the planet. It enables us to transfer personal experience to another individual through cultural communication, behavior, familiarization, confidence, trust, and feelings. The genetic and the cultural evolution are closely related. Their mutual complementation enabled the creation of humans. But what about the present and the future? Do we witness the witness and altering of biological human evolution? Is the pressure of selection today and in the future going to be realized through cultural mechanisms? How should we interpret the fact that in the last 100,000 years, the human brain has not become larger? Has the brain reached its maximum size? Otherwise, the birth and the passage through the narrow birth canal would be put into question. To what extent is a better and a more effective use of the existing capacities of the human central nerve system possible? For instance, are we going to be able to use the subconscious and forgotten in a more quality way? To supplement those questions, one should notice that the development of human brain is genetically predetermined, but the cultural evolution is not. Chapter 10.2. Many questions still to be answered. There are many interpretations of the differences between us and primitive human populations. That is what the distinction from stupid, superstitious, primitive, uneducated, vulgar, dirty, and heretical people was based upon. If the object of comparison is the level of technical effectiveness, we wonder why some groups are less effective. The reason is probably the variety of adaptations which were appropriate for the conditions in which various groups of people lived. But some elaborate on territoriality or instinctive aggression, considering them to be the base of social relations. Ownership, state, family, socio-political regulations, or belligerence. The diversity of approaches is further increased by those who compare hereditary genetic factors, which often leads to almost a racist thesis. All those theories deviate from modern theses of history, sociology, biology, psychology, and biological anthropology. Namely, imagining humans exclusively as a product of natural evolutionary processes and as a part of social collectivity is in contrast to the viewpoint on our transcendental characteristics. It is on those characteristics that we base human rights to freedom and dignity. We use them to differentiate ourselves from animals. They enable every individual to consider own self as special, a person. Namely, unlike other animals, human is a rational, moral, cultural, and religious being. As a result, human has a special relationship towards reality, and reality is adjusted to one's self. Human is self-conscious, able to explore oneself, to be not only a subject but an object of own consciousness. Dobzhansky says, human can transcend oneself and see oneself as an object among other objects. A human has attained the status of a person in the existential sense, and with it a poignant experience of freedom, of being able to contrive and to plan actions and to execute his plans or to leave them in abeyance. Through freedom, he gains a knowledge of good and evil. This knowledge is a heavy load to carry, a load of which organisms other than human are free. Human's freedom leads one to ask big questions, which no animals can ask. Does my life and the lives of others have any meaning? Does the world into which I am cast without my consent have any meaning? There are no final ultimate answers to these big questions, and probably there never will be any, if by answers one means precise, objective, provable certitudes. And yet seek for some sort of answers we must, because it is the highest glory of one's humanity that one is capable of searching for his or her own meaning and for the meaning of the cosmos. Do all people have the same psychological profile? Do we really all have the same human nature? The concept of humanism and humanity is based on the belief in such unity that it is also the fundamental assumption of Buddhism and Judeo-Christianity. Philosophers of the 18th and the 19th century nurtured the theory and believed that the improvement of the inborn humanity ensures an increasing level of development. On the other hand, many interpret human as a clear sheet of paper that civilization writes on. For instance, Karl Marx, 1818 to 1883, and Sigmund Freud, 1856 to 1939, considered that humans are shaped by their society, that is, family, and they explain the growth of civilization by various motives which, in their attempt to satisfy the inner contradiction, incite individuals and groups of people to great endeavors. So, Marx says, since the whole of what is called world history is nothing more than the creation of human through labor and the development of nature for human, one therefore has palpable and incontrovertible proof of his or her self-mediated birth and his or her process of emergence. Believing that through emancipation, humans will distance themselves from nature and become more independent and free, he optimistically envisages the creation of a new human history in which freedom, progress, and human perfection will flourish. Marx considered the course of history to be the way of human self-realization, but similar to Hegel, pointed out to the inevitable danger of alienation. It is based on the results of labor, which exceeds the needs of the manufacturer, that is, on the huge quantity of products which the manufacturer, not needing them himself, will sell to others. Consequently, the manufacturer treats products as somebody else's objects, which can result in the alienation of man from himself, from other people, and from the entire nature. This leads to the distortion of the value system and the creation of the consumer society, which is dominated by money, extravagance, greed, and lust. Obviously, there are many different viewpoints on the basic force which pushed humans to supersede other living beings and create civilization. Some will highlight the effect of inner unrest and discontent, which results in a search for meaning and truth. For instance, Frankl believes that in each of us there is an insatiable desire and need for meaning, and that it is that desire and not libido or will for power which forces us further during our life and work. But it should be noted that for civilization's progress, inner unrest was not enough. Practical engagement was required as well. A certain practice our ancestors used to build and we still use to create a more quality world. Spinoza elaborated on the fundamental importance of action in contrast to the passivity for the development of human, and was later followed by Hegel, Goethe, and Marx. That is how the theory that only a productive, free, and healthy human, united with his loved ones, can accomplish significant personal growth, which enables an honest interest for the world and which then responds in the same manner as devised. Chapter 10.3 Ecology of Humans. What is the future evolution of Homo sapiens? Will it result in further development and flourishment of spirituality, mindfulness, consciousness, love, and mental and cultural progress? Are psychophysical adaptations of a new cosmic type to occur? Will a super individual with a superb sense for art, love, and truth appear? Will the artificial selection conducted by humans enable the survival of biologically less valuable individuals and threaten the vital characteristics of the humankind through a long-lasting accumulation of their genetic material? Undoubtedly, humans shall need to further adapt to new life conditions in the future. The foundation of those conditions should be peace, equality, respect of individual and common customs and institutions, tolerance of various cultural heritages, and respect for both individual and common goals. These prerequisites can be met if creative human abilities are further developed through education, upbringing, and other elements of cultural evolution. It may be true we need to engage in designed humanization to live in accordance with a spiritual higher level of being human requires. The proponents of a design humanization demand a higher adherence to a transcendental reality, which should be the driver of Homo interior. Is the mankind facing the transition from Homo sapiens to Homo spiritualis? Should we fight for that evolutionary leap without any reservation? And if we do not, are we going to face the extinction of the humankind as J. Gitton believes? Namely, the disproportion of human cognition abilities which exceed time and space to our practical accomplishments is evident. In our attempt to practically govern time and space, further spiritualization of humans is needed in order to enlighten our own existence. Still, even if we understand that spiritualization is necessary, we know nothing of its timeline. Namely, our ultimate abilities cannot be deduced as they are only revealed in exceptional situations through maximum strain, which is often incited when sheer existence is compromised. If the essence of human is to be found in the conflict of our biological determination and the potential of transcendence, then our life aim is to exceed that dichotomy and reach the feeling of inner unity and unity with the environment. That is what we are trying to accomplish over and over again in numerous moments during our lives, looking for new harmonies within us and in relationships with others and with nature. It requires will, discipline, respect of others, and reduction of egocentrism and greed. Therefore, only humans, that is, each individual on his own, can find the purpose of life and discover routes to that purpose. What helps in the process is the feeling of duty and respect of moral principles, the qualities representing the most glorious heritage of humankind. Probably, each of us can imagine an idealized, generalized human by self-reflection on own individuality, and therefore we resist the attempt to reduce us to some abstract, generalized human paradigm. That is why our life aim might be a paradoxical, simultaneous cognition of own individuality and the experience of universality. This sublime aim cannot be realized without the right to freedom and the possession of reason, hope, and faith. But the development of individuality incites human desire to put oneself into the center of the world, at the starting point of all norms and occurrences. Therefore, we should call to our mind beautiful Gibran's words. Now I realize that the present moment contains all time, and within it is all that can be hoped for. Now I realize that whatever I am contains all places, and the distance that I walk embraces all distances. And Shushniech's writing, the person can be perceived as the one who comprehends the world, the one who adjusts oneself to the world, the one who brings order, meaning into the world, the one who in his mind keeps together the things scattered around the world, the one who changes the world, the one who resolves the world or submits to it, the one who identifies himself with the world, the one who produces the world, and finally the one who speaks on behalf of the whole world. Let me mention a few thoughts by Ignacy Smollett. We agree on the view that the greatest human value is the person, but not in the sense of one historical conditionality. For, if observed globally, there were and still are many people who think and act badly. The person is not inherent by default the greatest value, but the greatest value is the strength of his attempt to become that and the earnestness of one's actions undertaken to accomplish that. The named attitude to the concept of the person determines our perception of humanism. Such a commitment to the perception of humanism incites questions. Which person is it? Is it a child, a growing person, a student, a mature person, an aged person, or a memory of a person who used to live in the past? The best is to accept the following reply. All of the above named in a unique chain of being and development. But people are not constant. In addition, no one is only and entirely his own. Each human in a unique life lives one life of a complete being, but also the life of another being, the humankind, of which he or she is an element and is thus co-determining it. That means that the man sets the boundaries of its constitution within the boundaries of humankind, and the humankind determines the boundaries of its constituent to enable the integration of all individuals forming that genus.